students. How are you doing? Okay, welcome to another class. Today we're looking at a new topic. But before we go to that, remember in the last class we talked about entity relationship model, where we look at entity attributes and what relationship is. Also, we were able to develop what cardinality is, where we talk about the one-to-one relationship, one-to-many, many-to-one, and many-to-many. So today we'll be looking at the relational model. The lesson objective before us today is explain RDBMS and SQL, explain terms related to RM, describe creation and modification of relations using SQL, examine constraints and integrity constraints over relations. So quickly, let's look at what is relational model. Talking about relational model simply means is a model for database management which deals with tables. This was first predicted by EF code in 1960, and it was first adopted by IBM to develop a system called System R. A relation is nothing but a table of values. Take note of that. It's nothing but a table of values, deals with table. So let's look at the diagram that helps to show us what a relational model is all about. Looking at this table now, this is a table on its own, another table on its own, another table on its own, yes, another table here. So relational model now will bring tables together using a particular key. Remember earlier we talked about foreign keys, super key, pyramid keys, and all that. So talking about relational model, it helps to connect tables together, as you can see in this diagram. And the body of a relational model is called extension. It's called extension. So let's move quickly now. What are the examples of relational model softwares? We have Microsoft SQL Server, IBM DB2, Microsoft Access, Oracle, and so many others. Now let's look at the terms that we're going to come across when talking about relational model. Remember, like I said relational model deals with table. So that's why on the list, the first thing there is table. What is table? Tables are two-dimensional shapes which have rows and columns. But in database, we are not going to use the term rows and columns. We call it attributes, and we have tuple. You can see there, so you won't get confused. You can still relate them to rows and to columns. And in database, a row will give you a record, while the attribute is a field. Remember, in entity we said attribute in entity is a particular point about a noun. Other terms that we're going to come across are these: syntax, constraints, degree, attribute, domain. Yeah, in this attribute domain, every attribute has its own predefined value and scope. What do I mean? When you are creating an attribute, it must have what we call heading. When you are talking about the person's name, of course, the field would have carried the heading called field name or something like that. So take note of that. Now, this is a diagram that will tell you, that will summarize all those terms for you. Tables are also called relation, like I said, the primary key, the domain. This is the domain, like what I explained earlier. The customer name here is the domain. When you now provide, okay, Google as a customer here, as an attribute, and so on and so forth. So next now, we're going to look at SQL. What is SQL? SQL is a programming language, and the full meaning of SQL simply means structured query language. It is used to sort. The main thing we use SQL for is to sort data in our database. When you have multiples of data and you want to fetch data quickly, it's advisable you use the query language. And this is an American national standard. It was developed from the American National Standard Institute. Alright, what are the SQL commands that we we will use in this lesson. We're going to look at the functions of the SQL command, which includes select, create, insert, drop, delete, update, and so on. All these tools that are mentioned, they can be classified into four major groups. We have the data definition language, we have the data manipulation language, the data control language, and the data query language. When you want to carry out a data definition language, obviously you want to define that database. That's what we are trying to say there. Then you'll be using something like create. When you want to manipulate, then you use something like, insert and all that. When you want to control it, update, delete, and other languages will come in that case. Alright, so talking about database and relational model, we've been able to establish that we can use SQL to give queries and to sort our database. You can create, this is the syntax when using SQL, and it's the same way in creating it, in deleting it, and other functions. In conclusion, the purpose of relational model is to provide a declarative method of specifying data and queries. Relational model is nothing but a table of values about one or more entities, while SQL is a programming language that we need to adopt when we are dealing with relational model. Alright, we've come to the end of the lesson. I hope you've been able to gain something. We'll move to the Google Classroom now. There we'll continue with this lesson, and don't hesitate to drop any question that you have. Thank you. Have a nice day.